So I've spent a lot of time today looking at the Kyren Lacey case. So 2 videos were released earlier today basically explaining or showing proof of why Kyren Lacey was innocent. If you're not familiar with Kyren Lacey, he was an LSU college football player and he was the center of a car crash in Louisiana where one person was killed, Herman Hall. As a result of a situation, Kyren Lacey's NFL draft stock dropped. He was a college player, so obviously he's expecting to go to the NFL or at least play pro, and this situation had a negative impact on his social standing and his athletic career. And then in April, Kyren got into a domestic dispute argument, which led to a police chase, and it ended with him taking his own life. And sadly, this happened one day before his scheduled court case. As I mentioned earlier, 2 videos have come out today, which basically prove that he did not cause the car accident, and we are going to dig into that a little bit more. This is Hey Brittany, welcome back. Okay, so let's get into some facts about the case. So we know that Kyren was reported to have been driving recklessly. He was passing other cars, and I think he was doing that within the 2 lanes on his side of the road, but then also they said that he was crossing the center lane, which means that he was going onto the wrong side of the road. And as I mentioned, Kyren was charged for basically committing the car crash, fleeing the scene, and then not stopping or rendering aid. And I think it's the part about not stopping and rendering aid that looks really bad, because you can see one car in the video that was released, that car kind of pulls over or swerves to not hit another car, and then it stops. And so you see him kind of slow down, and then he just kind of moves around the car and continues about his day. And so I can understand why that looks bad, because you would want to think that people would stop to help others, especially if they witnessed a car crash like that or show some type of concern given what happened. Now, I want to talk about some articles that were released, because it was very difficult from all of the articles that I read to kind of understand what was going on, because it seemed like a few articles said different things about what happened. So I'm going to read from this one article that I have up. As Lacey was illegally passing the other vehicles, the driver of a northbound pickup truck abruptly braked and swerved to the right to avoid a head-on collision with the approaching Dodge. Traveling behind the pickup was a 2017 Kia Cadenza, whose driver swerved left to avoid the oncoming Dodge Charger. As the Kia Cadenza took evasive action to avoid impact with the Dodge, it crossed the center line and collided head-on with a southbound 2017 Kia Sorento. Following the crash, Lacey drove around the crash scene and fled south on LA Highway 20 without stopping to render aid, call emergency services, or report his involvement in the crash. I'm going to put up another article on the screen, but right now I'm reading from it. So basically it says, according to the Louisiana State Police, Lacey's Dodge Charger was traveling south on Louisiana Highway 20 when he allegedly passed multiple vehicles in a no-passing zone, forcing 2 oncoming cars to swerve. Investigators said that the evasive maneuvers caused a head-on collision between a Kia Cadenza and a Kia Sorento, killing 78-year-old Herman Hall, a passenger in the Sorento. The reason why I'm reading out these articles is so that you can get an understanding of what was reported, because I remember the story, but I didn't really pay attention to the little details. And so those are the 2 articles that I'm going to show you for now, and we can move on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show the first video that was released, and this is basically what happened leading up to the crash.
Yeah, so what you'll see is in the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way south to Thibodaux, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacey come to a stop.
So as we've seen the video, it looks like
Okay, so I was very confused watching that video, because one, the 18-wheeler is blocking part of our view, and then even though he's saying like the directions and all of that stuff, when I was trying to kind of look stuff up and piece things together, it was difficult to figure out what he was talking about, especially with him saying southbound, northbound, and also saying oncoming traffic. That was super confusing. And so Anyway, the other thing that I found confusing was who he was referring to when he said vehicle 2. I think that's the white Kia that he's talking about, and Herman Hall was in the SUV. That's the car that the white Kia hit. Now, in terms of the cars before the crash, they all seem to be driving normally. Nobody seems like they're driving super fast or panicked or trying to get out of the way. It just seems like everything is normal. And the one thing that I did notice is that the white Kia, it does look like it's trying to turn or it goes into the wrong lane. And so we want to figure out why it's doing that, especially since we don't really see anything weird on the right side of the road. So we have no idea what's going on. And then the 18-wheeler is blocking that side of the road. So we can't really see what's in front of the white Kia. We can just see the crash kind of happen out of nowhere. Now, in this video, you can see kind of like the solo shot of Kyren's car, and what I found interesting is that you don't really see any other cars around him, and so with that in mind, if they're talking about how he's driving recklessly and he's weaving in and out of the traffic and he's also on the wrong side of the road, if there's no cars around him, why would he be on the wrong side of the road? Because it seemed like the flow of traffic was normal. There weren't that many cars like near him or around him, so I'm not really sure why they're saying that he was weaving in and out of traffic at that point leading up to like 5 seconds before the crash, because it didn't seem like there were any cars near him. So now some questions that I have now that we've seen that video. One, why did it take so long for this video footage to come out? Usually because I watch Law & Order and all of that stuff, and obviously that is a 1-hour show and it speeds things up. But usually when you have an accident, the first thing you probably want to do is figure out who has cameras, were they working, and how you can get a copy of the tape, right? And so I wonder, one, how long it took to get this footage and why we are just now finding out about this. This happened in December of 2024. It is now October 2025. So did it take you a year to get this footage, or were there legal reasons for why you couldn't make this public? And then 2, given that Kyren took his life in April, did you have the footage before then, or did you only get it after April? The other thing that should be obvious, but if you have not figured that out yet, later on in this clip they do mention it, but basically, how can you be responsible for a crash that happens in front of you? So it's really significant that he's pointing out that Kyren was 72 yards behind the crash when it happened. So 72 yards is about 6 or 10 cars. So he really wasn't super close to the crash, but he was obviously in the area. And so I find that super interesting that they're saying that he was that far back. And then also too, this is why I did not like that they had a very tight shot. They should have widened it out, especially with how they were able to kind of track his car and follow his car. So they should have had a wider view so that we could see a little bit more of what was happening, because what I would want to know is, when he saw the crash, did he slow down and that's why it took him longer to get there? Or was he just driving that slowly the whole time and that's why it took him so long to get there? And so these are good questions to ask, especially since we don't have the full picture of everything and it's taken so long to get this video. So in seeing this video, the obvious conclusion is that someone who is behind a crash cannot be responsible for a crash that happens ahead of him. Either those people are responsible or the people ahead of them did something to maybe cause the crash, right? And so that's super interesting that this video really contradicts everything that we've seen before in terms of any articles that were published about what happened. Because I saw one article, and so this is very confusing because one, the Halls are in the SUV, so they are on the right side of the road in this video, and basically they're saying that because maybe Kyren was on the wrong side of the road. It sounds like that because if he's just switching lanes within the right side of the road, why would you be worried about that? So it sounds like they're saying, hey, he was on the wrong side of the road and this is why we swerved and the car crash happened. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but from the video footage, that doesn't appear to be the case. And so that's super interesting that this is the narrative that's being put out there, given what we can physically see in this video. So I'm interested in knowing whether or not there's other footage from different angles that could more clearly show what has happened here. Now let's get into the second video. So this is a video of someone giving a witness statement. I'm not going to play the full video, but it was really hard for me to understand what was being said here because of my hearing loss. So I did have to watch it a few times, and then they also kind of explained what was happening as far as what the witness himself said. And then what you'll notice in the second video is that the officer is kind of telling the person what to write, or reminding them, or suggesting or encouraging them to write a certain version of events, and I don't really know why that is. And they keep referencing the Dodge Charger, so I'm wondering how they found out that this Charger was involved in this accident. Did that come from another witness, or like why are they so fixated on this Dodge Charger? And I was actually very confused on which car this person was in, given that I said that you can't really see any cars passing the 18-wheeler at the time of the crash, because one thing that was mentioned was that basically there was a truck in front of the white Kia that had to swerve because of something. And so I was expecting to see a car kind of pass by the camera at the same time of the crash to corroborate that, and so I didn't see that. But I have a closer video, a much zoomed in closer video of the crash when it happened, and you can actually see a car, a truck, whatever, turn right into, I guess, whatever this area is on what would be the left side from our direction of the street. So it turns kind of where the 18-wheeler is. And so I didn't see that when I first watched this video, but I was really trying to figure out, like, what gold truck are they talking about? I don't see any trucks. I didn't see any pickup trucks crossing in front of the camera on the left side of the road. I did see a pickup truck going on the right side of the road, kind of before Kyren's car, and I was like, that can't be the pickup truck what they're talking about. What gold truck are they talking about? And so we'll go ahead and play that video so that you can see what I'm talking about.
At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2.
So that's a very short clip, but that is the car that you can see turning into that area kind of away from the crash. So going back to the witness's statement, one of the other things that he says that the lawyer is pointing out is that the guy is saying, hey, I wasn't going that fast. The person behind me, they caused the accident and all of that stuff. And I was, again, confused on which car he was in, because I didn't see his truck in the video until that video that we just played. And so I thought that he was the person in the SUV on the right side of the road, because we do see a car or another SUV kind of approaching, and that car has to swerve, and then it stopped, and then we see Kyren's car. So I thought he was talking about the white car, and I was like confused because that person didn't cause that crash either. Figured it out that the pickup truck was that car that we see turning. And so from there it gets very interesting, because the lawyer brings up that this is basically what the witness is saying, but then the cop is telling him, hey, you need to write this instead. You need to talk about how you had to brake and how you had to avoid the Dodge Charger. So again, they're setting up, or they're saying, hey, you have to avoid this car because presumably it is either ahead of you and you're about to hit it, or it's on the wrong side of the road coming at you. And so I do want to play this clip of the lawyer talking about what the witness just said.
And he's telling you, I wasn't traveling fast. We know now that he wasn't. The data shows 2.99 seconds before that he was traveling 28 miles an hour. The data shows that. Now he corroborates that. And he goes on to say, I didn't even make a skid mark. That woman behind me, she caused that accident. And you give me this statement that is refused? I got a problem.
Okay, so what I want to point out there is two things. The first thing is that he mentions that the witness was going 28 miles per hour. So in an article I found, it said that another car was going 50 miles per hour. So that makes me wonder, what was the speed limit on this road, this interstate, this highway, whatever, right? And so if he was going 28 miles per hour and another car is going 50 miles per hour, that tells you that something is off. Either the person going 50 miles per hour is speeding, or the person going 28 miles per hour is going super slow. And so if he is going super slow, why is that? And so the other thing that he mentioned is that he didn't have to he didn't have to leave a skid mark or anything like that. So he's saying that he didn't have to slam on his brakes. And so with the car in that clip that we saw of the car turning, I don't know which lane that car was in. Was it in? So I tried to look up this road on the map, and I think it is a 2-lane highway on either side. So there's 4 lanes, but 2 on each side. And so I don't know if this truck was in the lane that would have been the left lane, which would have been closer to the right side of the road where Kyren's car was, or if it was in the outer lane that would have been closer to the 18-wheeler. So if it was in the lane that was closer to Kyren's car, does that mean that if they didn't have to brake, that they swerved into that second lane closer to the 18-wheeler, or were they always in that road and whatever, right? And so I'm really just trying to understand, did this person not have to brake at all? Do they not have to change lane? Was everything fine? It was just a white Kia behind them that they were going too fast and didn't realize how slow he was going, almost hit him, and then they had to turn left. Because when you watch that video, you can clearly see that they either tried to turn and they mistimed it, not realizing that the other car, the SUV that they eventually hit, was too close, or they had to swerve into that lane for some reason. So that's super weird. I don't really know what the answer is, but I do think that that is a valid question, because there is a difference between going 28 miles per hour and going 50 miles per hour. Alrighty, so that's all that I want to cover in this episode. This was a lot to review these videos, review the articles, and try to make sense of everything. So hopefully I'm on the right track with understanding what happened here. And I know that a lot of people are talking about, just based on the video footage that we saw and the narrative of what was put out there, that it seems like this family has a lawsuit against the state of Louisiana for basically blaming something for something that they didn't do, based on this video footage that we saw. And then obviously what that resulted in was Kyren losing his opportunities in the NFL, in college, all of that stuff. And then he eventually took his own life. And so those things are all kind of mutually exclusive, because if you are someone who is an athlete and you're preparing your whole life to get to the next level, to get to the pros, so that you can make a lot of money and take care of your family and have a nice life, all of that stuff, something like this really can derail your career, ruin your life, in the sense that you don't get what you've been working your whole life for. And so on one hand, that's the narrative of the story. On the other hand, you always want to make sure that you are doing everything that you're supposed to do, and you're doing the right thing as an athlete, because you really do have so much to lose. You hear these stories about athletes speeding, doing drugs, and all of that stuff, and really risking the thing that they work so hard for 10 seconds, 5 minutes of fun, whatever, and it really ruins the whole course of their life. On the other hand, you do have 2 people who are now no longer here as a result of the situation. You have Herman Hall, who lost his life as a result of his car crash, and then you have Kyren, who has passed away due to suicide because of all of this pressure that he was facing. Obviously, bad outcomes all around, and this is very unfortunate. It did not have to happen, and hopefully they can get answers to figure out what actually happened here. So if I missed anything in this video, definitely let me know in the comment section below. If there's anything that I got wrong, if there's additional information that I did not mention in this video, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.